Hallelujah. Chapter 13, where we left off last week, was chapter 13, verse 16. Tonight starts chapter 13, verse 17. The portion's called Beshalach. Beshalach. And when he sent away. Beshalach. Exodus chapter 13, verse 17. This is a great portion. Before we even get started, this is a great portion. Last week was a great portion. This week's a great portion. Next week's a great portion. They're all great portions. But this passage now is so important. It's so important. And if you just think about it now, you might not grasp what I'm saying. I'll keep repeating these things in the next few weeks. But when you remember now, last year we had Passover together, and we were going, right, it's the count of the Omer now, it's the count of the Omer. For 49 days we're told to count the Omer, and it's a bit like, well, you don't count the Omer, what are you talking about? Well, this is what the count of the Omer is about now. This is the period of time. If you could just try and hear what I'm saying, it's Passover. Then we have the Feast of First Fruits, which is the resurrection of the Messiah. Then we're told to count each day. 49 days, count the days until you get to Pentecost or Shavuot. And that's what we're told to do. And what that is, it's remembering this period of time. Because last week was Passover, coming out of Egypt. And this portion this week and next week is the events of what happened during these 50 days. And it's that important to the Creator that we understand this, that He's given us an annual 50-day period to remember this. It's what we're meant to do when we count the Omer. We're remembering the details of this journey. So we can only scratch the surface tonight. I haven't got a clue where we're going to focus tonight. There's so much I want to read every verse and then talk about it. And that's where we never finish. So just lead us in this tonight, Father. Let us talk about and see what you want us to see. But Father, I know this week, this is so much more than just a week study that we'll do once a year. This is the instructions for our life. So please help us to focus and understand this. Amen. A reason why, let's read this together. 1 Corinthians chapter 10. Let's read this together. And it's dawned on me like never before this week when I've read this. It's dawned on me like never before how important this is. I watch a lot of these end time things, and I was on an end time chat room called End Time Ministries. So they're all end time heads, and everyone's talking about 666 and temples and 7 heads with tails and lions and dragons, and everyone's got that language. And that's very interesting, and we need to understand these things. But some of these things are just opinions and what people think, and maybe we won't understand until we're right there, and then we can understand properly. So a lot of it's people guessing. And I just made this comment, it's like a chat room, and everyone's shouting 666 and I just made this comment and quoted from what Paul's saying in 1 Corinthians. And my point was, if you're really an end timer, if you're really an end time believer, you better know the Torah. It's good to know what 666 might mean. It's good to know who the false prophet might be and who the Antichrist might be. They're all good things to talk about. But Paul's advice to us is this in 1 Corinthians chapter 10. Moreover, brethren, I do not want you to be unaware that all our fathers were under the cloud, all passed through the sea, all were baptized by Moses, I think that is, in the cloud and in the sea, all ate the same spiritual food, that's tonight's portion, all drank the same spiritual drink, that's tonight's portion, for they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was the Messiah. That's clear. It's not easy to understand, but it's easy to just accept. So when you read about the rock tonight, and Moses striking the rock, and water coming out the rock, that rock was the Messiah. That's what Paul says. But with most of them, God was not well pleased, for their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. Now, this is the point. These things became our examples, to the intent that we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted, and don't become idolaters as some of them. As it's written, the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. Nor let us commit sexual immorality as some of them did, and in one day 23,000 fell. Nor let us tempt the Messiah as some of them also tempted and were destroyed by serpents. Don't complain as some of them also complained and were destroyed by the destroyer. Verse 11 is the point that I quoted on this thing. Now all these things happened to them as examples, and they were written for our instruction, upon whom the end of the ages has come. So if you want to be an end timer, you better understand this, because all of this was written for our instruction, upon whom the end of the ages come. Knowing this narrative now, meditating on this, knowing it like the back of our hands is vital if you want to be prepared for the end times. You can have a little stash of water, a few cans of soup put away, make sure you're all prepared, but that's not going to get you through. That's going to lapse or get robbed or something. We need to believe in this God tonight. The God who parted the Red Sea, the God who gave manna from heaven, the God who gave water from the rock. That's our God. That is our God. And if we know him, then we'll be the Daniel posse that it says, those who know their God in these end days will be strong and do exploits. And that's who we want to be. We don't want to shrivel up and just scrape by. We want to be smashing it. Well, I'm so passionate about this narrative tonight for this reason. It's for our instruction, upon whom the end of the ages has come. Therefore, let him who thinks he stands take heed, lest he fall. And that's why more and more I'm getting more and more, oh Father, I'm trusting you. I realise I could fall apart any minute here if it's not for you. Please give me strength, give me courage. You know, we can be the Joshuas and the Calebs, or we can be them other 10 spies that had no faith and no confidence. Because when you see that, Joshua and Caleb, they had the same experience, but they come out and went, we know all about the giants. God's already told us there was giants in the land, so what? He's well able. And the difference between them two and the other 10 was they trusted in what God had already said. It's not like God hadn't already said. It's not like God hadn't already said there's giants in that land, you know, but don't worry, I'm going to drive them out. The battle belongs to me. And it's not like he hasn't already said, in these end days, there's going to be a great falling away. There's going to be a great deception upon those who don't love the truth. It's not like he hasn't already tried to tell us. So this narrative is that important. It's the count of the over, and it'll get clearer as we go. So let's just get on with it. I've already blew a lot through. There's a lot to get through, so I'll just try and start and see where we go. There's so much in this, so much. It's brilliant. Last week we came out of Egypt, or we came out of the control of Pharaoh. He gave in the end. Their firstborn was destroyed, just like Yah had said. Let Israel go. Israel's my son, my firstborn. And if you don't let Israel go, Pharaoh, then I'm going to destroy your firstborn. And that was the Passover we see last week, which is all about the redemption of the firstborn. That's the covenant we're in. It says this in Hebrews chapter 12. We have come to Mount Zion and to the assembly of the firstborn. We need to understand that as adopted into his family, we are adopted in through the firstborn, the Messiah. So verse 17, then it came to pass, when Pharaoh had let the people go, that God, chapter 13, verse 17, that God did not lead them by the way of the land of the Philistines, although that was near. For God said, lest perhaps the people change their minds when they see war and return to Egypt. So God led the people round by the way of the wilderness of the Red Sea, or in Hebrew the Yam Suf, the Sea of Reeds. Sea of Reeds. Well, this is Moses. That's where he started his life, wasn't it? In a basket in amongst the reeds. That's where Moses started his life. And now he's going to take Israel through the Sea of Reeds, the Yam Suf.
That's right. Yeah, not the Red Sea.
And the children of Israel went up in orderly ranks out of the lands of Egypt, because they're coming out like an army. They're not ready for war yet, but that is what God's already said. He brought out the armies of the children of Israel, orderly ranks. And Moshe, look at verse 19, I love this verse. Verse 19, and Moshe took the bones of Joseph with him, for Joseph had placed the children of Israel under a solemn oath, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones with you from here. That's what I remember in the Genesis 50, what a faith of Joseph, and he knew there's no way that God's going to leave us here. He's already promised. Remember how vital that Genesis 15 promise from God was to Abraham. 400 years your descendants will sojourn in a land that's not theirs. They will be afflicted in the land, and I will bring them out, and they will come out with great possessions. This was Genesis 15, and Joseph knew it, and the fathers of the faith knew it, and Joseph knew God is going to bring us up out of this land, and when he does, take my bones with you. So never forget on this journey now, Joseph's bones are with us, and if for no other reason we're going to get there, because he's got a promise of God. He knows someone's got to carry me bones. So, get as close to them bones and give you more faith when you understand this is what God says throughout the Torah. Don't think, Israel, don't think by any stretch of the imagination that this is happening because you're righteous. This has got nothing to do with you being righteous. This is all because I made a covenant with your fathers, Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, and I'm not going to break that covenant with them because they were sound. Yous might not be sound, but they were, and you're their kids, so I'm looking after yous on their accounts, on account of a promise I made in Genesis 22 to Abraham when he was willing to offer Isaac. That's why he's getting out of here. And Joseph just gives me that. I don't know, I love it. I love these bones of Joseph. He got took back to Israel. They're buried in Shechem, which is now called Nablus, which is a hotbed of Palestinian terrorism. And I think it was only this year I've seen it again. They've just recently set on fire the tomb of Joseph. These people are possessed. These people are possessed. Or whatever you call it. Why would you set the bones of Joseph on fire? But that's what we do. Anyway, so that's just that for Joseph. Because this promise is great. God will surely visit you, and you shall carry up my bones from here with you. Like a real resurrection message in that. Anyway, so they took their journey from Sukkot and camped in Etam at the edge of the wilderness, and Yahovah went before them by day in a pillar of cloud to lead the way, and by night in a pillar of fire to give them light, so as to go day and night, this journey. When you see that phrase that they come out in orderly ranks, it's a phrase of meaning fives that came out in like a military fashion in 5 abreast. Imagine how long that procession would have gone back, how many miles that has been of this troop coming out of Egypt, and it was by day and by night. And that is the way it is. It's a 24-hour, 7-day a week, 300 and whatever days a year march this. It's just on, night and day, do not stop, keep going, don't lose heart, don't give in for a minute, never take the armour of God off. Once you've got it on, keep it on, go to bed in it. Day and night. He did not take away the pillar of cloud by day or the pillar of fire by night from before the people, because he was always with them. Because he's Emmanuel, our God is with us, never leave us or forsake us. What a testimony this is. It's help us to really see this journey. But as I say, this is just a wetter than appetite, and I know myself, we have got to embrace this narrative. Please help us to really not take this lightly. Verse chapter 14. Hallelujah! There's some great evidence in here now. Now Yahovah spoke to Moshe, chapter 14, verse 1, saying, speak to the children of Israel that they turn and camp before Pi-Hahirot, between Migdol and the sea, opposite Baal Zephon, you shall camp before it by the sea. Now, if anyone's got a map in your Bibles, if you've got it, I've got one, most people have got a map in their Bibles, and if you're examining, the children of Israel don't even cross the Red Sea. They just don't. All of our maps are a load of nonsense, and they've got them wandering round and round in the Sinai Peninsula, and they never cross the Red Sea. It's like, what's wrong with these people? And it all stems back this to Constantine and his mum. Constantine's mum, Queen Helena, decided that the Mount Sinai was in the Sinai Peninsula. Maybe that's why the Sinai Peninsula is called the Sinai Peninsula. I don't know what comes first, but the mountain or the name of the peninsula. But she's the one who said, this is Mount Sinai. And he couldn't really argue with Constantine's mum, or you just get your head cut off. So she's the one who made the church at Bethlehem. She's the one who made the church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. She's the one who designated these as Christian sites. And she's the one who said Mount Sinai is in Sinai. And so for all these years, the archaeologists have been scratching around this stupid, idiotic mountain in Sinai Peninsula, going, we can't find any evidence that Moses was here. Oh, there's no evidence here at all. It's like, I know, because that wasn't where they were. You're looking in the wrong place. It's just stupid. They crossed the Red Sea. You know, we're all familiar with that. You know, the part of the sea, they crossed it. Well, they really did. And they went to a place called Mount Sinai, which Paul, you know, this is the problem. If Constantine's mum would have been reading Galatians, she wouldn't have got it so wrong. Because Galatians was written by the time Constantine's mum was here. And Galatians says clearly in chapter 4, Mount Sinai is in Arabia. It's like, it's not hard. Mount Sinai is in Arabia. And guess what? Mount Sinai is in Arabia. Because they found it, haven't you know? And a few of us have been watching the documentaries, and if you haven't watched the documentaries, and it's a feast to your eyes and your spirit and your soul, seeing the truth that's only been revealed in the last 30 or so years, that these people have gone and found these things, and then more have gone, and then more experienced people have gone and sought more evidence. And Mount Sinai is where it says it is in the Bible. And it says here that they turned into the wilderness and were told to camp by Pi-hahiros. And Pi-hahiros means Mount Pi of the Gorges. And when you see this place, it is exactly as it says. It's like the gorgeous mountains either side with a wadi, a valley that goes down to the sea, to the Gulf of Aqaba, and they are gorgeous. And then at the end, they open out, and that's the mouth of the gorges onto this big, huge, sandy beach right on the edge of the Red Sea. That's where it all took place. Not in these maps. God led them there, and it says now, let's just carry on, it says that God did this for a purpose, verse 3, because Pharaoh will say of the children of Israel, they are bewildered by the land, the wilderness has closed them in. Then I will harden Pharaoh's heart, so that he will pursue them, and I will gain honour over Pharaoh, and over all his army, again, so that Egypt may know that I am Jehovah. So that Egypt could just stop this nonsense with their mad gods that have all been destroyed, and eventually come to know that I am the actual true God. Amen. And he did so. Verse 5. Now I was told, King of Egypt, that the people had fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and his servants was turned against the people, and they said, why have we done this thing, that we have let Israel go from serving us? Their slave nation has gone. What are we going to do? So he made ready his chariots and took his people with him. Also he took 600 choice chariots, and all the chariots of Egypt were captains over every one of them. And Yahovah hardened the heart of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, and he pursued the children of Israel. And the children of Israel went out with boldness, with a high hand. So the Egyptians pursued them, all the horses and chariots of Pharaoh, his horsemen and his army, and overtook them camping by the sea, beside Pi-Hahiroth, before Baal Zephon. This was the final God now of the Egyptian hierarchy of gods. Baal Zephon means darkness, a hidden and dark God, a very mysterious God. And Pharaoh thought, this God, this Jehovah will not be able to defeat this God. This was the real last hope of Egypt, this God. This is all the chickens are in one, all the eggs are in one basket with this final God that's going to be destroyed. Verse 10, and when Pharaoh drew near, the children of Israel lifted their eyes, and behold, the Egyptians marched after them. So they were very afraid, and the children of Israel cried out to Jehovah. Then they said to Moshe, because there were no graves in Egypt, have you taken us away to die in the wilderness? Why have you so dealt with us to bring us up out of Egypt? Is this not the word we spoke to you in Egypt, saying, leave us alone, that we may serve the Egyptians? You didn't know that last week. Well, you know it now. This is what they were saying to Moses when all this was happening. Oh, leave us alone, Moses. We're all right here. We want to serve the Egyptians. We've got a cozy, to be honest with you. That's what you were saying to Moses. It's clear here, isn't it? Now that the heat's come on, now that the pressure's come on, now that Pharaoh's here. Oh, Moses, didn't we say to you, just leave us alone? We want to just serve Egypt. Well, that's how this life can be. Sometimes you just want to go back. Oh, I just want to go back to sleep. Why did you have to wake me up? Well, sorry. No, it's time to wake up. It is time to wake up and not be asleep anymore, because, you know, things are getting serious in the world now. But that's the nature here. This is the fear setting, and they just say, you should have just left us alone, Moses. We were quite happy serving Pharaoh. And we'll see more of that later when they start. Oh, them leeks and them cucumbers. Oh, they were lovely. They were a slave nation, getting beaten up and afflicted. Remember what it was like in the world. Don't forget how miserable it is in the world, you know. Even if you did have, I used to have a great time in the world, but I know how much of a joke it was now looking back, how unfulfilling it was. And it just had to indulge more and more to satisfy. You're never satisfied. Never satisfied. The world will not satisfy. You know, we saw this week with some guy, multi-millionaire. Life going to pieces through alcoholism. Life, you know, family destroyed through alcoholism. We're praying for, for redemption and restoration in that situation. But I'm just saying, you know, you can have all the fancy goods in the world and your life can be falling apart. Because this world doesn't satisfy. Yeah, but you can see even here now, they're already a couple of hours or whatever out of Egypt, a few days out of Egypt, wanting to go back. Oh, it wasn't so bad there, you know. It was actually alright, that. You know, rubbish. This is what it's saying. This is all written for us. This is not for us to slag them down. Go, well, I'll stay to them. If I was there, I'd have done it. It's like, well, yeah, great. Well, do it then. That's what it's written for your instruction list upon whom the end of the ages has come. No one is going to know as knowing what is about to happen on this world. And we can only get through this supernaturally. We can only get through this in the spirit. And this is the language we need to embrace for this reason. Because our flesh will be like this. Oh, I can't buy your son without the mark of the beast. What am I going to do? Like, don't take the mark of the beast. Do not take the mark of the beast. But don't even think about it. You know, amen. It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than we should die in the wilderness. And Moshe said to the people, do not be afraid. This is a massive verse. Stand still and see. And it is in Hebrew, see Yahovah Yeshua. That's what it is in Hebrew. See the salvation, the Yeshua of Yehovah. See the Yeshua of Yahovah. That's what it means. That's why his name is Yeshua. That's why the angel Gabriel said, you will have a child and you will call his name Yeshua, for he will Yoshia the people. He will deliver the people. He will save the people. Salvation and Yeshua, it's the same name. Stand still, that's got the phrase, the Hebrew word for that's very like the word for truth. So it's like stand in the truth. Stand in the truth. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of Pharaoh coming. Don't be afraid of anything. Stand in the truth and see the salvation of Yahovah, which he will accomplish for you today, not tomorrow like Pharaoh. Today, for the Egyptians whom you see today, you will see no more again forever. Yahovah will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. And Yahovah said to Moshe, why are you crying to me? Tell the children of Israel to go forward, but lift up your rod and stretch out your hands. I mean, you know, you're getting used to this language now, aren't you? You're getting used to this phrase of stretching out the hands. We've been seeing it a lot the last few weeks. It goes right back to Abraham. But as we've seen in the Gospels this week, didn't we? With a sort of narrative that's meant to remind us of each other, when Yeshua walked on the water. Remember, he fed the 5,000. That night he walked on the water. And when they saw him, they were afraid. And he said, don't be afraid. It's I. It's me. And Peter said, if it's you, Lord, tell me to come. And Yeshua said, oh, come. And Peter got out the boat, didn't he? And began to walk on the water. And then when he saw the storm, he began to sink. And what did Yeshua do? He stretched out his hands. And Peter said, Lord, save me. So Yeshua stretched out his hands. It's the same language. It's that language. He is the hand of God. Hallelujah. So lift up your rod and stretch out your hand over the sea and divide it. And the children of Israel shall go on dry ground through the midst of the sea. God, and I indeed will harden the hearts of the Egyptians, and they shall follow them. So I will gain honour over Pharaoh, and over all his army, his chariots and his horsemen. Then the Egyptians shall know that I am Yahovah, when I have gained honour for myself over Pharaoh, his chariots and his horsemen. And the angel of God who went before the camp of Israel moved and went behind them, and the pillar of cloud went before them and stood behind them. So it came between the camp of the Egyptians and the camp of Israel. Thus it was a cloud and darkness to the one, and it gave light by night to the other, so that the one did not come near the other all that night. Then Moshe stretched out his hand over the sea, and Yahovah caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind, a ruach kadim. And that is, we've said, that's a ruach, the spirit, the ancient one, the ancients from a time in past east, a time before time, the ancient one, the ancient of days, the spirit of the ancient of days, because to blow all that night, and made the sea into dry land, and the waters were divided. So the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea on dry ground, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. You've got to try and picture this. And as I say, you've got to do this yourself and meditate on this day and night. This is our story. This is our story. He is our God. He parted the Red Sea. But there's a real message in this as well. It's about the dry land, waters and dry land. Where's that come from? Where have you heard that before? Dry land appearing out of the waters. The creation story. Thank you, Joan. The creation story. And what day did that happen on? Day 3. Fantastic, Joan. Day 3. We've done this, so we started Genesis all over again and said, get to remember what days things happened on. Remember what happened on the first day and the second day. Remember what happened on the third day. On the third day, he separated the waters and made the dry land appear, and the trees that give fruit and seed. It's a third day message. The third day message is the resurrection message. That's what the third day message is. It's the message of resurrection, because he rose on the third day. On the third day. And that's what this is a message of. God is showing from creation right through this. It's a third day message, this. I'm going to deliver you from Egypt. I'm going to bring you out. All those I wills last week. I will redeem you. I will make you my people. I will be your God. I will take you out of Egypt and I will bring you into the land. All of them I wills, this is how it happened. By the Red Sea parting and dry land appearing. I just got to read this, I love this verse. Isaiah 43. Hallelujah, Father. Thank you for your word and thank you for this. God, we have become so used to this and so desensitized, and it's almost become once upon a time sometimes. But God, please help us at these last days to learn from this and to have great trust and faith in who you still are, because you have not changed. But what it says, Isaiah 43 verse 16, thus Yahovah, who makes a way in the sea and a path through the mighty waters, who brings forth the chariot and the horse, the army and the power. They shall lie down together, they shall not rise, they are extinguished, they are quenched like a wick. All to that is about Yah makes a way in the sea and a path through the mighty waters. So if you haven't already seen these documentaries, I'll just say, and if you have seen them, you'll know what I'm on about. If you haven't seen them, they're a must see, because this now, and I've been snorkeling in the Red Sea. I've been to not this location, but the whole Red Sea, Gulf of Aqaba, Red Sea Resort. I've been scuba diving, snorkeling there. And if you drained it, the topography of it is, it drops off for a mile like that. Just goes right like the Grand Canyon. If you can imagine the Grand Canyon, well, that's what it's like. This is the Rift Valley, one of the biggest rift valleys on the planet Earth, that comes right down the Jordan Valley, right through the Dead Sea, right down here. This is the Rift Valley, and it's a massive canyon, a mile deep, sheer cliffs cutting it off. So it's one thing to part the Red Sea, that's great, and it is great, but how are you going to get all these people with cattle and kids down a mile face cliff? And if you could do that, how are you going to get them back up the other side? That's pretty hard. So there's more to this story, and it's what Isaiah says. He made a pathway in the sea. And when you see these videos, it's so clear, and they've done it scientifically. The people that have investigated this, and just some fella from down the road. It's the Stockholm, the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm, the people who award the Nobel Prize for Science, you know, they're quite serious people. They're the ones who have gone with their equipment to investigate all this, and have done the soundings, and you can even see on some videos the ripple of water at this place, because the creator of the universe made at this location a big land bank that comes up, so that when the waters were cleared, you didn't have this mile big sheer face cliff to deal with. You had a gently sloping ridge, gently sloped and gently sloped back up, just under the surface. About it's 50 foot or whatever, 100 foot, and it just gradually slopes off, and that's what you could walk through. The rest of it, any other place, you'd have had a big mile drop to navigate and a mile climb the other side. But God had made a pathway. That the creator of the universe had made a pathway. And that is all to point to Yeshua, because he is the way. He is the way out. There's only one way you're getting out of this. You've got fear over there, and you've got a sea there. There's only one way you're getting through this, and that's by the creator of the universe doing a third day act and parting the waters and providing dry land that they could go through. So, you know, please watch those things. You would love them, because it's true, all this. And the wall of water, and again, I've been there, so I've got some sort of idea of the distance. I am told it's 7 miles. 7 miles. It's not like the Mersey, that he's part of the Mersey and it's just like a few hundred feet. It's about a 7-mile expanse between Sinai and Arabia. It's a long, long trek. So you've got 7 miles or so of the waters up like a wall, and this pathway that the creator of the universe has prepared. This is what we've got to remember, because we're going to see soon And Psalm 106, we just make a note of that, is a great read. I said this last night, we've done the Psalms last night, and a lot of the Psalms associated with this, Lynn said, it brought all this to life. The Psalms are good for that, it fills it in on the details. But after all of this, they still didn't believe. They still didn't believe. After all this, they soon lost faith. Don't slag them down. This is all written for your instruction, upon whom the end of the ages has come. Verse 23, just crack on. Lots to get through here. But you can't miss these verses, can you? And the and the Egyptians pursued and went after them into the midst of the sea, all Pharaoh's horses, the chariots and his horsemen. Now it came to pass in the morning watch that Jehovah looked down upon the army of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and cloud, and he troubled the army of the Egyptians, and he took off their chariot wheels. And when you watch these videos, you'll see footage of chariot wheels on the bottom of the Red Sea, because Pharaoh had a gold-rimmed chariot wheel, and coral cannot attach to gold. It can attach to dead horses, and it can attach to wooden chariots, and it can attach to dead Egyptians. And the bottom of the Red Sea, or this Gulf of Aqaba, is strewn with strange looking coral manifestations, chariots on the side, axles with wheels intact and corals attached to it. And these dons from the Caroline Sea Institute, you know what I'm talking about, marine biologists are saying, coral can't grow like that. It doesn't grow like that naturally, it needs something to fix to. And that doesn't half look like a chariot, doesn't it? And it does. Yeah. It's like it's a chariot. That's a chariot. You can see it's a chariot. Yeah. You know, and all kinds of things. But there's a gold-rimmed wheel that was part of Pharaoh's chariot. It's there. It only got discovered 30 years ago. It's been hidden for all this time. It's been revealed now for this end time generation. And one of the fellas that have done this, there's a few, as I say, Jim and Penny Caldwell. Jim and Penny Caldwell are worth watching. Donna's got the book. And they're brilliant. You can hear their testimony. They were oil engineers in Saudi Arabia. You had every right to be in the country. And at the weekends they go out into missions. They were archaeologists. And they went seeking these things, and these have brought a lot to the table, so I'd encourage you just to watch them.
I've seen that film 2 or 3 times. I've seen it 2 or 3 times.
2 or 3 times a week, 2 or 3 times a day. I mean it, especially at this period of time now, you've got to see this, it's evidence. But this Jim and Penny Caldwell, when they put it together, God said to Jim Caldwell, tell Israel about this. Tell Israel, the reason I'm revealing all this now is for my people Israel to understand.
They couldn't get near around it though, could he? Because the Egyptians had stuff around it.
It's a fenced off area, you can't go there, it's all fenced off. But they could get the cameras, and there's an altar there with all engravings of Egyptian cattle. It's like, the evidence is there. The rock, 60-foot tall rock that's split down the middle with evidence of where water gushed out. It's all there. So put look at him in the Sinai Peninsula. You might as well go and have a look in Sefton Park. Really, you're not going to find that. I'll be honest with you, Moses wasn't in Sefton Park. And he wasn't in the Sinai Peninsula down them ways either. He crossed the Red Sea. The way it says in the Bible, the Red Sea parted. It did. So when you check it out, I've just put a line through the middle of the Red Sea, through the middle, and gone, that's where it crossed. Right, it's just great. It's great. So these chariot wheels, that verse 25 that God says he took off, well, they're there, you can see them, the evidence is there, they're on the bottom of the Red Sea now as evidence for this end time generation. So he took off their chariot wheels, so they drove them with difficulty the way you would, and the Egyptians said, let us flee from the face of Israel, for Yahovah fights for them against the Egyptians. Then Yahovah said, stretch out your hand over the sea, and the waters will come back upon the Egyptians, on their chariots and on their horsemen. And Moshe stretched out his hand over the sea, and when the morning appeared, the sea returned to its full depth, while the Egyptians were fleeing into it. So Yahovah overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. Then the horses returned and covered the chariots, the horsemen, and all the army of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. Not so much as one of them remained. And the other thing is, Solomon set up pillars. There's a pillar on the Egyptian side and a pillar on the Arabian side. And the inscription on it was, and again, only found 30 years ago. Saudi Arabia got rid of it quick, and the Egyptian one is set up just over the road now, set up, and the inscription is all about Pharaoh, who fought God under Moses and Solomon, and it's, you can see that Solomon put these pillars there to mark the point where this took place. There's so much evidence, like, you just got to watch it, you know. It's just, and not many people are aware of this. You know, we've got churches going, we don't even know if Moses was a real person. God, restore the truth. So, amen. Verse 29. The children of Israel had walked on dry land in the midst of the sea, and the waters were a wall to them on their right hand and on their left. So Yahuwah saved Yeshua, Israel that day, out of the hands of the Egyptians, and Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the seashore. So that's probably where they get their swords from for the final part of tonight's reading, when they fight Amalek. So they probably get all the swords off the dead Egyptians, I would imagine. Verse 31, thus Israel saw the great work which Yahuwah had done in Egypt. So the people feared Yahuwah and believed Yahuwah and his servant Moshe. Amen. Chapter 15, the Song of Moses. You could spend hours studying this. We're going to have to just blitz through it and get into it and just let me crack on with it, because I love this. Chapter 15, the Song of Moses, the Song of the Sea. So this is, they come through the Red Sea. God has destroyed the Pharaoh. They're all lying dead on the seashore. Israel are like, oh, hallelujah. Moshe and the children of Israel sang this song to Yahuwah and spoke, saying, I will sing to Yahuwah, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and the rider he has thrown into the sea. Now this verse 2 is a brilliant verse. It's the only verse, I believe, that is in the whole of the Tanakh. And just so you know what I mean, the Tanakh is the Old Testament. Tanakh is the Old Testament. It's Torah to Tanakh, Torah. Nevi'im, the prophets Nevi'im, and Ketuvim, the writings, Tanakh to Tanakh, Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim. And this verse is the only one that's in all three. And it is this: Yahuwah is my strength and song, and he has become my Yeshua. That's in Isaiah chapter 12. And we mentioned that at the time of tabernacles, don't we? Because it's at the time of tabernacles that Israel was singing that song. Yahuwah is my strength and my song, and he has become my Yeshua. And it's in Psalm 118, such a messianic psalm, Psalm 118, and it's in the verse, Psalm 118, verse 14. In fact, I've got to read that one, just to get the context. You know, it's always like this here. I think we'll get through it, but Psalm 118, just for context. Here it is, Psalm 118, verse 15. Verse 15. The voice of rejoicing and salvation is in the tents of the righteous. Or only drop it. Verse 14. The reason I'm quoting that bit is because the next bit just keeps on going about the right hand of Yah does valiantly, the right hand of Yah is exalted, the right hand of Yah does valiantly. That's the reason I was reading that bit. It's verse 14. Yahuwah is my strength and song, and he has become my salvation. Yeah. And then if we carry on, the voice of rejoicing and salvation is in the tents of the righteous. The right hand of Yah does valiantly, the right hand of Yah is exalted, the right hand of Yah does valiantly. I shall not die but live and declare the works of Yahuwah. The Lord has chastened me severely, but he has not given me over to death. It's Psalm 118. It's a messianic psalm about the resurrection of the Messiah. The right hand of God has done valiantly. It's the same phrase that leads us into it. Yahovah is my strength and my song, and he has become my Yeshua, my salvation.
That's the song we started on.
Great. It's so, it's doctrine, and it started off in the Song of Moses. Isaiah uses it, and Psalm 118 uses it. It's got that messianic thread going through it. So that's a great verse. He is my God, and I will praise him, my Father's God, and I will exalt him. Yahovah is a man of war. Yahovah is his name. And you know what, going back 4 years now, or whatever, this is when I started to get it. I started to fall in love with his name around this. I was just starting to get introduced to it all. It's like, wow, you can't really deny what that says, can you? Yahovah is a man of war. Yahovah is his name. And I just started to understand the importance of knowing his name. It's so important to know his name. Because what does his name mean? Yahovah, who was, who is, and who is to come. He gives that understanding that he is from everlasting to everlasting. He is already been there, and he is already there. He's outside of time. He chose us from the beginning of the world, before the foundations of the world. He chose us. While we were in our mother's womb, he knew us. He knows everything about us. He knows all of our ins, comings and goings, and he loves us anyway. So his name is that. Yahovah is a man of war. Yahovah is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his army is cast into the sea. His chosen captains are also drowned in the sea. The depths have covered them. They sank to the bottom like a stone. And they are still there to this day, like a stone, but this time they are encrusted in coral. They're still sitting down there, encrusted in coral, and they've retrieved them and took them back to the labs, and they've gone, oh yeah, that's actually a fibia bone. You know, they've done their own work, they've examined this stuff. These are human body parts lying at the bottom of the Red Sea, encased in coral, preserved for this day. Your right hand, that's why we read the Psalm 118 again. Your right hand, O Yahovah, has become glorious in power. Your right hand, O Yahovah, has dashed the enemy in pieces. And again, the right hand of Yah is Yeshua, isn't it? That is Yeshua. Psalm 110. Sit at my right hand. It's a messianic psalm. You are a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek. Sit at my right hand, the son at my right hand. So whenever we see right hand, it's about Yeshua. It's about the messianic work of God. Your right hand, O Yah, has dashed the enemy in pieces. And in the greatest of your excellencies, you have overthrown those who rose against you. You sent forth your wrath, it consumed them like stubble. And with the blast of your nostrils, the waters were gathered together. The flood stood upright like a heap. The depths congealed in the heart of the sea. The enemy said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My desire shall be satisfied on them. I will draw my sword. My hand shall destroy them. That's the voice of the enemy. And I would assign that voice more to the enemy, Satan, than Pharaoh. Because Pharaoh wanted them back as a slave nation. Israel was like, where's our slaves gone? Whoa, we want our slaves back. We want our slaves to come and rebuild Egypt. This is more the enemy going, no, I'm not interested in getting them back as slaves. I want to wipe them out from the face of the earth. I want to destroy this nation altogether. Because the enemy knows the Messiah is in this nation. The seed of Messiah is here. If I can wipe this nation out, there is no Saviour. If I can wipe this nation out, the promises of God will come to nothing. The enemy wanted to destroy Israel, and he had a willing oppo in Pharaoh. You blew with verse 10 with your winds, the sea covered them, they sank like lead in the mighty waters.
Verse 11, who is like you, O Yahovah, among the gods? Who is like you, glorious in holiness, fearful in praises, doing wonders? You stretched out your right hand, the earth swallowed them. You in your mercy, Hesed. God, this is what this is all about. The mercy of God. It's not because God wants to be dead hard. He wants people to bow the knee. He wanted everyone to accept who he was and acknowledge who he was, but they wouldn't. So they've had their day. But he is a God of mercy. You in your mercy have led forth the people who you have redeemed. And we know, we said at the start, the new song in Revelation 15, it says, worthy is the Lamb, because he has redeemed us to God by his own blood. This is a Passover story, this. You have guarded them in your strength to your holy habitation. Their people will hear and be afraid. Oh, you better believe the people are going to hear about this. Sorrow will take hold of the inhabitants of Philistia. The chiefs of Edom will be dismayed. The mighty men of Moab, trembling will take hold of them. And all the inhabitants of Canaan will melt away. And we'll see that in the Torah when we famously, in Numbers like 21, 22, the king of Moab will say, oh, we're panicking here. Israel's here, and they're going to destroy us. And that's when they hire Balaam to come and curse Israel, because the king of Moab is in fear and trembling. When the spies went in Joshua, when he sends spies into the land, Rahab says, oh, we've heard about you Israelites, we've heard about what your God did to the Egyptians, and the day that we heard of it, our hearts melted within us. We didn't have to worry about this, if we knew how scared the enemy was of Israel. Israel just needed to believe this. It's a message for us. It's not a history lesson, it's a future get ready lesson. The enemy is petrified, He goes around like a roaring lion, seeking who may he devour. But stand fast, resist the devil, submit to God, and he will flee. And that's what happens here. Really behind the scenes, the inhabitants of Canaan were trembling in fear, and the inhabitants of Edom were as well. And that's what this song's saying. Fear and dread will fall on them. By the greatness of your arm, they will be as still as a stone. Till your people pass over, Hebrew, Abba, your people, Abba, Hebrew, pass over, cross over. Till your people cross over, the people, your people pass over. Who you have purchased by his blood. You will bring them in and plant them in the mountain of your holy inheritance. In the place, O Yah, which you have made for your dwelling, the sanctuary, O Yahovah, which your hands have established. Yahovah shall reign forever and ever. Amen. Amen. Now that's the song of Moses, and there's another song of Moses in the last chapters of Deuteronomy, isn't it? But there's another song of Moses, isn't there? We're not going to go and read it now, but you know where it is. Revelation chapter 15. We will all be standing there, we'll be there standing on the sea of fire and of glass, and we will be singing the song of Moses, the servant of God, and the song of the Lamb. How can anyone think this is history? How can anyone think this is history when it's all yet to happen? I want us to be there, knowing every word, belting out like Coppites, like that. More than Coppites, the rubbish Coppites now. They've lost the atmosphere altogether, you know what I mean? It's just gone. Well, we want to be like that, proper singing the song of Moses. And that's why I read every word of that, because it's a prophetic song. It's what's going to happen. He hasn't finished yet. Like George always reminds me, the time is going to come, it says, when they will no longer talk about the God who brought them out of Egypt through the Red Sea. That's going to pay in significance with what we are about to see. Yeshua's coming back. He's coming back to set up his kingdom. This is what it's all about. It's soon. He's coming soon. It's what it's all about. We are not cranks for believing this, We are not cranks for believing this. This is what it's all about. He's coming soon to set up his kingdom. because he's the king. And he's not going to have a vote and go, hey, what do you reckon, everyone? Should we keep the Sabbath? And I don't want votes to go, he's going to go, what? We're keeping the Sabbath. Because it's written in Isaiah, from one new moon to the next, and from one Sabbath to the other, they will worship God. You know, it's a kingdom, this. We're the king. There's no other king than Yeshua. What he says goes. He doesn't look at ask our advice and go, what's going to happen about this? Is this okay with you? He's the king. He's the king. He's the king of kings. And in Matthew, when he's laying down the rules of the kingdom, in Matthew, the Sermon on the Mount, and he's establishing exactly what the kingdom's about. He says now, don't think for 1 minute, I have come to do away with the Torah. I haven't come to do away with the Torah. I've come to fulfill the Torah. And fulfill doesn't mean do away with it. As you got on to, doesn't mean that, does it? I haven't come to do away with the Torah. I've come to fulfill it, which means do away with. No. Romans 8 tells us what that means. That the righteous requirements of the Torah might be fulfilled in you. That's what it's supposed to be. Yeah, fulfilled in you. That you would walk in it and establish his kingdom by being his people and doing it his way and not changing things. And, you know, amen. Amen. Verse 20. Then Miriam, the prophetess, the sister of Aaron. Which is, you know, why not the sister of Moses? Why the sister of Aaron? Why is she a prophetess? Well, you've got to go right back into the beginning of Exodus, because Miriam was there at 7 years of age when Moses was put into the Nile, and she was standing there watching from afar. She knew God's got a plan for my little brother. I'm going to be here to watch what goes on, and I don't know what I'm going to be able to do, but I'm just going to be in my place, and I'm going to be available. And as soon as the opportunity came, she was there, wasn't she, to Pharaoh's daughter. Do you want me to find a nanny for her? And she got, you know, she's a prophetess, Miriam. She's a prophetess. And that's why she's the sister of Aaron, because it's trying to sort of say, when Moses was a baby, this is when she came into her understanding. You know, it's special. She took the timbrel in her hand, and all the women went out after her with timbrels and with dances, and Miriam answered them, and she said, sing to Yahuwah, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and the rider he has thrown into the sea. Amen. Amen. Now, just quickly, Psalm 106, I'll just do it dead quick. Psalm 106, verse 11, verse 9, verse 7, just to get a flavour. Psalm 106, verse 7. Our fathers in Egypt did not understand your wonders. That's the point here. They didn't understand the wonders. They didn't remember the multitude of your mercies, but they rebelled by the sea, the Red Sea. When they were like, oh, what have you brought us here for, Moses? Well, we're very great in Egypt. Nevertheless, that's grace. Nevertheless, he saved them for his name's sake, that he might make known his mighty power. He rebuked the Red Sea, and it dried up. So he led them through the depths as through the wilderness. He saved them from the hand of him who hated them. That's why we need to know our God. He will save us from the hand of those who hate us. And he redeemed them from the hand of the enemy. The waters covered their enemies. There wasn't one of them left. Then they believed his words. They sang his praise. The Song of Moses, verse 13. They soon forgot his words. They did not wait for his counsel, but lusted exceedingly in the wilderness and tested God in the desert. And go back to the Torah. The reason I'm reading that, in the transition from one verse to the next, that's what takes place. Verse 21, Miriam's out with the tambourine. They're all, hallelujah, sing to Yahuwah, he has triumphed gloriously. Verse 22, so Moshe brought Israel from the Red Sea. Then they went out into the wilderness of Shur, and they went 3 days in the wilderness and found no water. Now when they came to Marah, they could not drink the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore the name of it was called Marah, bitterness. And the people complained against Moshe, saying, what shall we drink? And this is 3 days after all of that rejoicing on the banks of the Red Sea. All of that, hallelujah. Oh, God's great. He's a man of war. I will praise him. He is my God and the God of my fathers. Where's that all from? After 3 days, they've turned from praising Yah to now complaining again. Oh, what have you brought us here for? Oh, we want to go back to it. Okay. Any chance of making them Moses fast again, Moses? Can we go back? Any chance to get that Moses again? And there's got to be lessons. It's not just to criticise this. It's not just to go, oh, look at that. It's for us. This is for us. This is for us. And my message out of this is, and I've been saying this for long enough now to know I'm sticking to what I believe here. 3 days out of the Word. 3 days of just not in fellowship. You know how it can go. You know, I remember what it was like. 3 days of being out of it can make you forget how much he loves you. 3 days of not in the water of his word can make your heart go hard, and you start to get all a bit humanistic again and start thinking all like human again. That's how quickly you can set in. This rebellion, you can stand on the banks of the Red Sea 1 minute, see the water, walk through it, and see the walls and go, oh, and then see them come back and destroy it and have the best praise party you've ever had in all your life. 3 days later, you can be down with all. We're going, oh, why have you brought us here? Oh, I wish I could go back into the world. No, I used to love it in the world. It was great that I had mates in the world. You know, we can do all that. I used to have parties, and it's like that's the flesh was never going to give up, you know. And that's what we said at the start. It's a day and night march. Because the flesh is never going to give up. I wish it would, like. I wish there's something you could get, or a book you could buy, or something, you know, that could. But it's just not. If the flesh is there, we're growing within ourselves, waiting for the redemption of our bodies, which is coming soon. But these last few days, years, months, weeks, whatever we've got, it's like we've got to learn from this. We've got to learn from this and know. And that's what Yeshua is saying. You can understand Yeshua's language more now, can't you? When you see this bit, we haven't got loads of time, so the next phase is like Mary, and they're all crying out in the next chapter going, all right, then you give us water, sound, all right. Well, what about food now? We're starving now. Oh, the groceries I'm saying, you know, and it's like, God, don't criticise them. You've got to learn from it.
Steve, we shouldn't criticise them.
No, I'm not, am I? No, I'm trying not to. No, and if we are, it's got to be looking at us, because like that's what Paul's saying so clearly. This was written for your benefit. You know, especially for you upon whom the ends of the ages come. God, you're more than anyone. God, we are chosen, you know, to be here for such a time as this. So I'm just saying, you know, this time of the word will start to make us doubt, start to make us, you know, like I always say, the Galatians chapter 2, Paul in Galatians chapter 2, the life I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith in the Son of God who loved me and who gave himself for me. But you can come out of that way of thinking, and if you're not in the Word, you will. The flesh will take over, and somehow you lose touch with who this God is. So it's got to be a day-to-day, hasn't it? An everyday thing is. Every day. So verse 24, he complained against Moshe, saying, what shall we drink? So he cried out to Yah, and Yah showed him a tree. He showed him a tree. Yeah, a tree, a cross. Yeah, a tree. And trees are also men. And in the words of God, trees are like men. Psalm 1 shows that. Whoever meditates in the law of God day and night, he will be like a tree planted by the waters.
And like the man was blind to see men as trees.
You know what? I was going to mention that. You know, what a miracle that is, George. And I'm thinking about this. I was thinking about this the other day, and we'll be coming up to the gospel soon. George has mentioned there the miracle, and it is coming up in the next week or two. When Yeshua, there's a blind man, and Yeshua takes him out, doesn't he? And then he lays hands on him, and then the fella says, I can see men walking like trees.
And you know, I've always thought, what's going on here? Is Yeshua having a bad day? Is he like, oh, just can't get the miracles going today, man. I'm having a bit of a bad day. Oh, I'll have another go later. Is that what's going on? Is Yeshua just not to the job on this day? Is he just like run out of a bit of power? No, he's God. He's God. What's happening here? The first phase of this miracle is he's given him real sight. He's given him spiritual sight, because the man is seeing people walk like trees, and Yeshua's going, that's exactly how I see men as well, because men are like trees. Yeah. So the first level of that miracle, he restores this man's spiritual sight. Then he will get his full natural sight. That's what it's not like Yeshua's not doing so good today.
John the Baptist reacts his legs to the root.
Yeah.
He actually relates to the roots of trees, you know what I mean? So.
Yeah, oh I see, yeah, there's another tree one. But see that miracle, what we're saying here with Yeshua, he restored the man's spiritual sight, then he restored his physical sight. So there's a great message in that, because he saw men walking like trees, and that's exactly how you should see people, as trees. Help us to be fruitful, Father. Help us to help each other to be fruitful. So we show them a tree. There's another way of looking at this, and Yeshua is the Word of God, you know. But there's two trees in the Bible, isn't there? There's the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and there's the tree of life. Yeah. And Proverbs chapter 3 says this, just so we can understand what this tree is, you see. Proverbs chapter 3, verse 17, talking about wisdom. Verse 16, length of days is in her right hand, and her left hand riches and honour. Her ways are ways of pleasantness, and all her paths of peace. She is a tree of life to those who take hold of her, and happy are all who retain her. This is the commandments of God. This is wisdom and understanding. It's a tree of life. And so God has shown Moshe a tree which speaks of Messiah, which speaks of the Torah, which speaks of all of it.
He's the branch, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the vine as well, and we are the branches as well.
No,
yeah. So he shows him a tree. When he cast the tree into the waters were made sweet. There he made a statute and an ordinance for them, and there he tested them. He tested them. It's another good psalm to read, Psalm 78. Psalm 106 is good, and Psalm 78. And it gives you the background a lot. What you don't hear in this narrative, Psalm 78 fills you in on, and it shows you during all this time, and the next chapters we'll come up to, it says, God was furious. He was furious with the children of Israel. It doesn't tell you that here, but God is furious. And it says many times he could have wiped them out, but every time, because of his mercy, because of his loving kindness, because of his promise to Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, he didn't. And he's a long-suffering God. He's a God of mercy and kindness and grace. And that is why he doesn't destroy them. But he's also on it, and he's not happy with this attitude. And let this be lessons for us all the time. He tested them. And that is what David says in Psalm 26, what David says, or Asaph is in Psalm 139. You test me, God. You examine me. I'm the one who needs to be tested. I'm the one who needs to be examined. You don't need to be tested. No one can test God. He's perfect. He's not there for us to test him. We're here for him to test us. And we should welcome that. We should want that. Any wicked way in me, God, get it out. You know, the heart is wicked and deceitful above all things. So please, give us pure hearts, Lord God. Search us and try us, Lord God. Because that's his prerogative. He tests them. And verse 26, and he said, if you diligently heed, oh, this is the covenant we're in. If you diligently heed, if you shema, if you hear and understand and embrace the voice of Yahovah, your Elohim, and do what is right in his sight, give ear to his commandments, keep all his statutes. If you'll do all that, I will put none of the diseases
on which I put on the Egyptians. For I am Yahovah who heals you. Yahovah Rophika. Yahovah the Rapha. The Hebrew word for doctor. You go to doctors in Israel, you go to see the Rapha, the Rophika, the healer.
No NHS for this.
Hallelujah. You know, look at this verse now, verse 27. I mean, I think it's only because of the attitude and the response to the children of Israel that only gets one verse, but this should have a chapter, this verse. Then, verse 27, they came to Elim, we call it, Elim Pentecostal. Elim, it is. They came to Elim, and look what's there, 12 wells of water and 70 palm trees. So they camped there by the waters. That's all that gets said. But we should dwell at this place when we're doing the days of the count of the order, the 50 days. At least spend a day on that one verse and meditate on it, because the creator of the universe has put 12 wells of water there and 70 palm trees, like a sign to go. 12 tribes went down into Egypt, consisting of 70 people. That is to tell you, you're on track, people. You know, I am leading you. You're coming back to the land, and I've made this beautiful oasis to just engage with you and make you realise this is my plan. And then we can go forward with that number to the days of Yeshua, and Yeshua had 12 disciples, and he sent out the 12, and he gave them authority, and he said, go out and cast out demons and heal the sick and raise the dead, preach the good news, tell people to repent. Then he done exactly the same thing after the Feast of Tabernacles with 70. He sent out 70. It's all in this place called Elim, where God has set up this beautiful sign of creation. 12 wells of water and 70 palm trees. It's his kingdom. It's his kingdom. The 12 tribes of Israel and the 70 nations of the world. God loves the world. He loves the whole world. Israel is a light to the nations, to draw in everyone, the nations of the world. Amen. Right, it's 5 to or something, so we've got to wrap up soon. So, chapter 16, we can't even start it. We can't start it. I want to finish with chapter 17. Chapter 16, I've already alluded to it. It's a great one. It's the manna. And it's a shame we haven't got time, but I want to finish off on chapter 17. It's about the manna. And it just so happens that on this week's Gospels, last Sunday, what were we doing? We were doing John chapter 6, weren't we? We were doing John chapter 6, when after he had fed the 5,000, and after he had walked on water, the people came to him and said, give us a sign. Give us a sign. And he said, you are here because you understand the signs. You're here because of all that food you got yesterday, because I broke the bread yesterday, and I like that. Well, give us a sign. Moses gave us a sign. He gave us bread from heaven, and that's when Yeshua dealt with it. He said, look, Moses didn't give you the real bread from heaven, you know. The real bread from heaven is he who has come down from heaven, and that's me. I am the bread of life. And unless you eat my body and drink my blood, you will have no life. And at that point, loads of them got off. They were like, oh, we can't cope with this. And so Yeshua said, okay. To his own disciples, have you had enough of you? You know, when they were, Peter said, where can we go, Lord? Where can we go now? You have got the words of life. Where can we go? And that's what the manna is for. The nutshell lesson of the manna is in Deuteronomy chapter 8, when Moses revealed, he did this, you know, he fed you with manna in the wilderness to test you and to see if you would know this, that man does not live by bread alone. This is what Yeshua used in the wilderness, wasn't it? When the devil was tempting him, and he said, man shall not live by bread alone, but man shall live by every word that comes out of the mouth of God. And that's what this lesson is for. That's what Deuteronomy chapter 8 tells us, that this lesson was to humble us and to make us realise we can't do this in our own strength. We can't do this by being minted or loaded and having loads of success and looking after ourselves. We can't do it that way. We need to know that we can only live by his word. And this test was designed for that. And the Sabbath is in this chapter. The Torah hasn't been given at Mount Sinai yet. We haven't had the Ten Commandments till next week. But the Sabbath's here in chapter 16. Because the Sabbath was instituted in Genesis, wasn't it? On the 7th day, God rested from all his works and he was refreshed. And it says here that he gave us this Sabbath for our rest. And a test in there as well to see, will you obey me? Like Donna's been saying quite a bit, I've heard a few times recently, she's identified now the same voice that was in the garden saying to Adam and Eve, or to Eve the woman, did God really say about that tree? Did he really mean it? She's hearing that voice now connected with the Sabbath. The devil's going, did God really mean it about the Sabbath? I mean, did he really? That's just for the Jews, isn't it? And that's the voice of the devil. Yeah. Same voice is trying to attack the covenants of God. And the Sabbath is part of God's covenant. We are not saved by keeping the Sabbath. And the sages have a great phrase, they say, it's not that Israel kept the Sabbath Sabbath kept Israel. You know, and that has kept their identity, hasn't it? It's kept them separate from the nations. God's separated them from the nations and given them a way to keep it. It's so special, the Sabbath. And we said this last week, a statement from Bill Bullock when we were talking about Passover. Passover was the way out of Egypt. Passover was the way out of bondage. Passover was the way out of slavery to this world. And Bill Bullock's comment was, and I know you loved it, didn't you, this phrase of coming into these feasts, it's the first step, Bill Bullock said, in the transition from being a slave of Pharaoh and a slave of this world into the covenant people of God. The creator of the universe has given us these ways to be his people. And that's what Yeshua's all about. This is not hard, you know. My yoke's not hard. My yoke's easy. It's not hard and heavy. It's easy. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me. And this is part of his yoke, is keeping his feasts. Chapter 17, are we alright for 5 minutes? Are we alright? The ones who've travelled a bit? Yeah? Crack on 5 minutes, so we just finish off. Chapter 17, the water from the rock. Then all the congregation of the children of Israel set out on their journey from the wilderness of Sin, according to the commandments of Yahovah, and camped in Rephidim. But there was no water for the people to drink. Therefore the people contended with Moshe and said, give us water that we may drink. So Moshe said to them, why do you contend with me? Why do you tempt Yahovah? And the people thirsted there for water, and the people complained against Moshe and said, why is it that you have brought us up out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our livestock with thirst? This is like the 3rd time tonight we've seen this complaint and this blasphemy that God has brought Israel out to kill. He has not brought us here to kill us. He loves us. Yeshua said, it's the thief that's come to steal, kill and destroy. I've come that you might have life and you might have it more abundantly. And the devil wants us to think the way these are thinking here. Why have you brought us out? So verse 4, Moshe cried out to Yah, saying, what shall I do with this people? They are almost ready to stone me. This is what happened with Yeshua. And Yah said to Moshe, go on before the people. Take with you some of the elders of Israel. Also take in your hand your rod with which you struck the river. And go, behold, I will stand before you there on the rock in Horeb. And you shall strike the rock, and water will come out of him. No such word in Hebrew for it. It's always him or her. This is him. Because Yeshua is him. Yeshua is the rock. And water will come out of him. This is why you can understand it at tabernacles when Yeshua is relating to this. If you're thirsty, you're all thirsty, aren't you? Because Israel were a thirsty nation. We're thirsty! We're thirsty! Yeshua said, if anyone's thirsty, let him come to me, and out of his innermost being will flow rivers of life-giving water. Because he's relating to this, that's why he says, don't worry about what you're going to eat. Don't worry about what you're going to drink and what you're going to wear. Your Father knows you need all this. He knows all this. Don't worry. It's that you've got to understand that the narrative of these people that were craving for food, craving for drink, and thought God hated them because of their cravings. That's why Yeshua's saying what he's saying. So strike the rock and water will come out of it and the people may drink. And Moshe did so in the sight just of the elders of Israel. So we called the name of the place Massa and Meribah because of the contention of the children of Israel and because they tempted Yahovah, saying, is Yahovah among us or not? And we just need to settle that, because his name is Emmanuel. His name is God is with us. And his promise is, I will never, ever leave you or forsake you. And we need to settle that. And it's all right sitting here all cozy tonight, but in the times we're coming into, we need to settle this. He will never leave us. He will never forsake us. He will be with us. He will get us through what's coming, and he wants us to get through it victoriously. There's only a few verses now. So let me just mention that. You've heard all this before. Striking the rock. Yeshua's the rock. Later down the line, 40 years time or whatever, Moshe will be told again, won't he? This time, speak to the rock. Speak to the rock, Moshe. Why? Because the rock was always going to be struck once. The rock was only ever supposed to be struck once, because Yeshua is the rock, and he was going to be struck once for all. So don't strike it twice, Moses. Don't do it again in 40 years, Moses. Once that the rock's been struck, from now on, speak to him. And that's our role now. He has been struck once for all. From now on, we just need to speak to him. And we'll leave it there, because we've already gone over it. The next bit's only a few verses. It's the battle with the Amalekites. I'll just finish off with verse 15. After this battle, we might even just carry on with this next week, because this is the famous one when Moses lifts his hands, isn't it? Amen. When there's a fight with the Amalekites, he comes to attack them from the rear, and attack all the weak ones, and Moses goes up the mountain, and he sits on a stone, it says, isn't it? A stone, and Eben, which means father and son, all in the one word. Father, I and the Father are one. Yeshua, Moses sits on a stone, he lifts his hands, and when he lifts his hands, the children of Israel prevail. Joshua prevails over the Amalekites. And I'll just finish with verse 15. Moshe built an altar and called its name Yahovah Nissi. Yahovah Nissi. Nissi. And that means Yahovah is my banner. Nissi is always like Eli, Eli, my God, Nissi, my banner. And that's what he's saying here. He built an altar and he called its name Yahovah is my banner. And the next time you see that, or the first time you see that phrase, that word in scripture, nas for banner, is when it says, lift up, make a serpent, a brass serpent, and lift it up on a pole. Lift it up on a pole. And whoever looks to that serpent lifted up will be healed. And then Yeshua said in John 6, that's all about me, that's all about me. As Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. And Yeshua is this banner. He is this sign, banner, pole, standard. It's all the same word. Nas, nis, nissi. He is the banner. And I'll just read one last verse from Isaiah 49. Alright. Isaiah, sorry we've gone on a bit, sorry. But just want to finish off on a nice messianic note. Isaiah chapter 49. It's this word, this is where this word comes into it. It's all pointing to Yeshua. Moses built an altar called Yahovah Nissi. Yahovah is my banner, and that banner is always going to be Yeshua. Chapter 49, verse 22. Thus says Adonai Yahovah, behold, I will lift my hand in an oath to the nations. I set up my nest, my standard, my banner, my sign for the peoples. They shall bring your sons in their arms, and your daughters shall be carried on their shoulders. Kings shall foster your foster fathers, and their queens your nursing mothers, and they shall bow down to you with their faces to the earth, and lick up the dust of your feet. Then you will know that I am Yahovah, for they shall not be ashamed who wait for me. Amen. Thanks everyone. Hallelujah.